Welcome back, guys. Okay, I've been talking about uh, heredity. We'll be talking about determination of sex and genetics. We're talking about probability in genetics. So, in case you missed that, I would suggest that you go back to the previous episode to watch it. Okay, so let's move on. Now, I believe you can determine uh, probability of genetics, genotype, and the likes, and you can talk about sex determination too. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about application of the principle of heredity. Like, is it useful at all? Where do we use it? How do we use it? Okay, now let's move on. Now, the principle of heredity is relevant in different sectors, such as number one, agriculture. Now, through the use of genetics, plant breeders and farmers can create new plant varieties with improved yields, increased resistance to pests and diseases, or greater adaptation to certain growing environments. What am I talking about? It is possible that they alter the genetic component of a plant such that it begin to reproduce something that is better than what it was producing, so that it can become something that will give a better economic value, better income to the farmer, or you'll be able to resist the diseases or pests. You get that now? Okay, now also the knowledge of genetics can help to produce plants with desirable characters, such as better flavor or nutrition. Now let's take for instance, you have a friend, you have an apple tree in your house that produces very sweet apple, but the fruits are always small. But your friend has an apple tree in his own compound too. Now it produces very big apple, but it doesn't have that sweet taste. So what can you do? There's a way you can combine the desirable trait in the two varieties of apple together, such that you now have one that would have the two characters that you like. Imagine what will become of that. By the time you start producing apple that is big and has very good taste, the economic value will be very, very great. And you as a farmer will be happy too. Then it is also used in the words of medicine, the word of medicine. Right now, it can be used in diagnosis of genetic diseases. Now, I believe all of us know you have been to a medical lab before where they conduct tests on you and they're able to tell that, okay, this is what is wrong, this is what is that. Yes, all of those are application of heredity. It would have been a problem if not because of heredity, where we have been able to identify the problems of people's genotype, people's blood group. In the case of blood transfusion now, you are giving a blood that is completely different from what is in the person's body. You are giving it to a patient. No, you want to fast track the death of the person, and that is not good. Are you getting that? That's not good. So that is another principle or another application of heredity. Now, I said diagnosis of genetic diseases, then personalization of medical treatment. You have, like, if the doctors have knowledge of what is wrong with you now, which of course is done through the principle of genetics, right? They would have been able to know how to treat you. They would have been able to know, okay, use this particular drug, it will help you. No, don't use that. I think your body is resisting this one. Don't use it. All of those are what we gain from the knowledge of heredity. Then what else again? Vaccine development. Vaccine development. Now, we now have vaccines to different kind of diseases. We have vaccines to many kind of diseases like that, to polio, to many kind of diseases. We have vaccines because they have been able to study them. Doctors have been able to understand what the problem, what this particular pathogens are. They know the way they behave. Please don't be confused. I use the word pathogen. A pathogen is a disease causing organism. Any organism that can cause an infection is called pathogen. For example, the plasmodium now that causes what? Malaria is a pathogen. Then we also know what we it is also used for gene therapy. Then risk assessment and prediction. Okay. Now, all of these are examples of applications of heredity. Now let's look at crossbreeding and inbreeding. Crossbreeding and inbreeding. Now, Crossbreeding is the mating of animals from different breeds. I'm sure you must have heard of liger. Liger is a product of a kind of combination of a lion and a tiger, which means that a liger will have the strength of a tiger and it will also have the strength of a lion. Are you with me now? That is crossbreeding because you have gone outside the species to produce what? An offspring. A dog and a goat is crossbreeding. I've not seen that before, but I've heard of liger and a tiger. But there is a problem. In case it come out in your exam, when you do crossbreeding, the offspring or the result of a crossbreeding is always very, very what? Sterile. What do I mean by the word sterile? It means what? It cannot reproduce. It doesn't have the strength to produce an offspring of its own. The liger that these guys produce from the union of tiger and lion will just live. And after all that, it's going to die. It can't reproduce because it does not have a species. Now, for you to be able to reproduce successfully, it must be within a species. Goat can only give birth to a goat if the goat has mated, right? Or has performed a kind of carried out a kind of fertilization now by another goat. But by the time you are going out of that, now look at this liger that we have here. Obviously, the liger did not come from natural mating. It must have been that they collected the sex cell of a tiger and they took that of a lion too, like we do in IVF in human being, or we do a kind of cloning. Are you there now? So they now join the two of them together to produce liger, but if not, it cannot happen. So the liger will be sterile. Then we have mule from donkey and horse. Now, the breeds are chosen based on certain desirable characteristics. Obviously, they do that because there is something that they like. You get now? There's something that they like. Okay, now, I said they are chosen based on certain characteristics that they like or that they possess, such as their size, such as the taste, ability to resist diseases, or to produce high marketable yield. Okay, that is for crossbreeding. Now, in the case of inbreeding, it is the mating of humans or organisms that are closely linked by common ancestry. Please stay with me. Humans or organisms that are closely linked by common ancestry, like the two of them are very, very identical. They are almost the same thing. They have the same ancestors, they share the same ancestors. That is inbreeding. Now, let's look at GMO. I decided to move to GMO because it is very important. Now, and I'm going to take my time to explain the meaning of GMO because in the case of the apple that I talked about that time, right? So when you produce an apple from two different species or two variants of apple, the new one definitely become what different from the old ones, right? Or when you alter the genetic component of a particular plant, it become what? A GMO. What's the meaning of GMO? It means genetically modified organisms. What does it mean? It means organism that you have altered the gene. You have tampered with genetic component. Maybe there's something that it doesn't have. You've added it to it, or there's something that it has that is not good. You have removed it. Now let's take for instance, let's look at human beings that do not have the strength to reproduce. We have human beings. I'm just looking at it for example. Human beings that do not, or that they have taken away their ability to reproduce or their ability to do some certain things, or you have given them a kind of special strength that makes them super smart. Are you there now? Now, if you go to market now, you will see some tomatoes that are very, very big, like they are abnormally big. Those are what? GMOs, because they have tampered with their genetic components. They have altered their genes. So they have been caused now to start producing something that is different from what they were supposed to be producing naturally. Okay, so let's look at what we have here. Genetically modified organisms are organisms that have been modified genetically. A major disadvantage is what I'm going to talk about of this GMO is that it has the tendencies to affect biodiversity, as all or most organisms have been modified to be the same or highly identical. Now, What exactly is the meaning of biodiversity? What do I mean by biodiversity? It means what? The diversity of living organisms. Let's split it. Biodiversity. Bio means life. It means living, right? And diversity, that means the diversity of living organisms. Now, if we decide to say that, okay, we want to have a community of only human beings, no problem, that is good. But it's just going to last for a while because even the human beings cannot self-sustain itself. We still need other organisms to keep us living. There is a topic in biology called balance in nature, right? Now, this topic talks about the interaction between animals and plants. If we have only a community of human beings, can we produce oxygen that we breathe in? No. And yet we cannot even utilize the carbon dioxide that we that we breathe out. So we need we need something to take out our waste and give us something else. So that is it. So if all organisms have been genetically modified, then there won't be biodiversity again. Now, another advantage of biodiversity is that it ensures that what the food chain is stable. Most of you don't like earthworm. Most of you don't like lizard, you don't like cockroach, you don't like mosquitoes, you don't like those annoying organisms, supposed annoying organisms. Now, you don't like them because of what they do. But remember that they keep the food chain intact. They help us to maintain what? Balanced food chain. If the food chain is altered, it's just a matter of time, it will affect human beings. It will affect human beings. So that biodiversity must be maintained. It must be maintained. But if you now alter all the organisms to start looking like the same thing, there is nothing about diversity again. And that is not good. That is not good. Okay. Now, the widespread of antibiotic resistance, toxicity, and allergies are other negative implications of genetically modified food. Now, I'm going to take that again, or I will explain it. Now, we have antibiotics resistance, we have toxicity and allergies. All of these are what? Health implications of genetically modified food. Yes, by the time you begin to eat, let's say you are feeding on chicken that have been genetically modified now. Now, the natural genomic content of the chicken may not be there again. It may not be there again. Maybe what has been put into the chicken, it can even be harmful to us. It can be harmful. I know some people that they don't take anything that has been modified genetically. So any plant that they have used fertilizer to plant, they don't go near it. They don't. Okay, so let's move on. Now let's look at this. Sex-linked inheritance. You cannot escape this, so you need to pay attention. Sex-linked inheritance. Remember I told you earlier, I think it was in one of the episodes of what we have, excuse me, I told you about chromosome number 1 to chromosome number 23, and I said chromosome 1 to chromosome number 22 are somatic cells, while chromosome number 23, which of course can be X or Y, is known as the sex cell. You agree with me? Now, when you hear about sex-linked inheritance, now the sex-linked inheritance are inheritance that can only be transmitted by either X or Y chromosome. Please stay with me. This is very important. It can only be transmitted by either X or Y chromosome. So, and also pay attention. Now, most of these sex-linked inheritance are only transmitted by this chromosome, which is what? The mother. Are you with me now? They are transmitted by the mother. Why is it not by the father? The Y chromosome is smaller compared to S chromosome. The Y chromosome is weaker compared to S chromosome. So when you have X and Y chromosome coming together, the X now will always bully the Y. The S chromosome will always make the Y chromosome to be quiet because it is bigger and it is stronger than the Y chromosome, which explains why a woman that is pregnant naturally has tendencies to give birth to a girl, not a boy. So for a man now, for a woman to give birth to a boy, it means that the Y is extraordinarily strong for it to be able to overcome the X chromosome. Okay, now let's move. Let's leave that. Let's move on. Now, sex-linked inheritance. These are traits that are linked only to sex cells. I told you earlier, and they are what? X or the Y chromosome. They can only be transmitted by any of these two chromosomes. Chromosome number 1 to chromosome number 22 cannot transmit sex-linked traits or sex-linked inheritance. It can't. It cannot transmit sex-linked trait or character. Now, example of sex-linked trait, we have baldness, we have hemophilia, we have color blindness. These are very common examples. Baldness, hemophilia, and color blindness. Can I tell you this? That if you carry 1,000 guys, let's say you carry 100 guys now, like 90% of them will be colorblind. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. Now, the color blind is coming from the mother, not from the father. Remember, I told you that it is sex-linked. Now, pay attention. I also told you that the Y chromosome is weaker compared to the X. So, it is also being carried by the X, not by the Y. I'm not saying that the Y chromosome does not carry sex-linked inheritance. It does. I mean, sex-linked traits. It does. But it is weaker. It carries what a few. Majority of those sex-linked traits are being carried by X chromosome. Okay, so like baldness now, if I tell you that it is gotten from the mother, yes, it is. Hemophilia, color blindness. Okay, now before marriage, it is important that the intending couples have deep understanding of each other's genetic makeup. Intending couples have understanding of each other's genetic makeup. You should understand the genetic makeup of whoever you want to marry. Are you getting it now? Okay, can we move on? Okay, now, and what are these genetic makeup? We have stuff like rhesus factor, rhesus compatibility. What do I mean by rhesus? Rhesus is the plus or minus that always follow your blood group. Now, somebody's own is AB positive, someone is O negative, someone is O positive, someone is A positive, someone is A negative. The plus or minus on top is the rhesus. It is very, very important. Those things are not just there because God wants to carry out fertilization. No. They have an important role that they play. So you need to pay attention. Now, sickle cell anemia, another blood-related disease, may be passed down to the offspring. So if you know that your own blood group or your own genotype is AS, please, it becomes very important that you pay attention to who you want to marry. You need to understand if the person too has S component or the person is having C component. No, unless you have to sit down and agree that, okay, what if we have a child that is like this? What if we have a child that is like this? Is that clear now? So let me go back to the rhesus compatibility. Now, one of the issues that people can have with rhesus is that for academic purpose, we know that the blood group O is known as universal donor, right? That is for academic purpose. But for medical purpose, blood group O alone is not the universal donor. Although blood group O is very pure, the universal donor is blood group O negative, not O positive. So if you are saying blood group O, it encompasses O negative and O positive, right? But I'm telling you that for medical purpose, although for academic purpose, blood group O is universal donor. But in the real sense, it is O negative. So you need to pay attention, understand the genetic component of who the spouse is. It will help you to live a better life. It will help you to avoid troubles that would have been avoided. Okay, so let's look at some of the questions that do come up from this topic. Now, the first one here says that which of the following describes the inheritance of traits from parent to offspring? Which of the following describes the inheritance of traits from parent to offspring? A, adaptation, B, evolution, C, natural selection, D, genetics. The answer here is D, which of course is genetics. Then number 2, it says which of the following statement is true regarding sexual reproduction in organisms? Which of the following statement is true regarding sexual reproduction in organisms? A. It involves the fusion of gametes from two parents, resulting in offspring with genetic variation. I'll take that again. It involves the fusion of gametes from two parents, resulting in offspring with genetic variation. Option B, it involves the production of offspring through a single parent, resulting in genetically identical offspring. Excuse me. Now, you agree with me that this option B says that a single parent, no, the single parent cancelled it out, and also genetically identical offspring. That is mitosis, not meiosis. Okay. Then option C, it is a form of asexual reproduction. Now the point is, the question says sexual reproduction. If you look at what we have here, it says sexual reproduction, right? And the option here says that a form of asexual reproduction. That automatically cancels out that option. So let's look at option D. It does not involve the formation of gametes or fusion of the reproductive cell. No, that is not correct too. So the correct answer for this question is option A. Thank you so much. Let's move on. Now let's look at question number 3. Now the alternate form of a gene is dash, like the alternate form of a gene. Remember when I was talking, I used the word, I said alternative form of a gene. Yes, and that is what? That is allele. That's allele. So what does it mean? This is a gene here, AS, that is for somebody. So it's either this or this. You get now. So that is the meaning of allele. This is an allele here, A or S. So like now, when you are, of course, this is going to be a monohybrid inheritance. I'm not going deep. Now, for dihybrid, in the case of the experiment that Mendel did, he worked with pea plants, and he was able to identify like 7 different features of the pea plant. That is dihybrid. We won't go there. So the allele is not going to be 1. But for what we're doing, is just a monohybrid. So the allele is 1. Okay, now let's move on. Okay. In monohybrid inheritance, what do I mean by monohybrid? It means that you are only looking at one character, not 2. It is called heterozygous. It is called heterozygous. Why? Now, the word zygous there is from the word zygote. Are you getting me now? From the word zygote, which means that the zygote here are different. Remember what they taught us in our I think year 9 or year 10, we talked about zygote coming together to form the gamete, right? We talked about zygote coming together to form the gamete. And if you remember, I told you earlier that you have allele coming from the father, you have allele coming from the mother to make up who the child is. So obviously an allele is the zygote, and this one too is the zygote too. I hope you're with me. And this one too is the zygote. So now they said 2 different alleles. They're different. So the answer for this question is C, heterozygous. Are you there? The answer for the question is heterozygous. So guys, thank you so much. I think we'll take a pause here. They will continue later. Thank you so much.